bit of introduction to Surinder. He's not a technologist. He's a technologist by accident. He's a banker. He's a finance business major. Spent time in Citibank, then went to Barclays, tried to retire twice, as Stephanie mentioned. Bought a house in Tucson, Arizona, bought a food truck, wanted to get into the food truck business, but got pulled back into NAB to drive a transformation. But as Stephanie was saying, it's 35 years of driving transformations. I've talked to Patrick Wright and Surinder's organization colleagues. He's described as a rebel. He's described as the change agent, challenger-in-chief, agitator. So very different and unusual monikers for somebody in these, the banking financial services sector. What I would like to do for the next 20 minutes is actually extract, if possible, your personal philosophies, personal learnings of how you've been doing these transformations over 35 years, and bring it down to action, not so much at strategy level, but actually the doing, the execution aspect of it.
Yeah.
So get started. Let's not go all 35 years ago, but if you see last 10 years, and we talk of transformation now, in your mind, what is so different now compared to, let's say, 5, 10 years ago? And what has really not changed? So some things still stick around and they don't change much.
That's a great question, Sai. Thank you. And Tiffany, thank you for giving me that brilliant introduction. So, we are sitting here in the, I think it's like the 10th year of post the GFC. So I kind of paint a picture relating to, what's going on with the customers, because that's where you start. All transformations are really about the customer. And so if you think about customers, they've become very sophisticated. Internet and the smart devices, they've really changed the way buyers and sellers come together. And they're becoming more demanding. And at least, and again, I'm assuming most of you are customers of banks. They become more wary and less trusting of banks, especially post the GFC. And that is going to continue to happen. So that is not changing, and they're going to become more and more demanding. Their expectations are actually what I call ticket to come to the ball game to play. And then you look at regulation. The regulatory environment is demanding. If you look at the UK ring fence, if you look at what happened here with the Schumer box and the Dodd-Frank Act in the US, and in real time right now, and I know there's a colleague of mine here from ANZ, there's a Royal Commission going on in Australia. So the regulators are going to get demanding and really be, both from a prudential perspective as well as from a customer protection perspective, they're going to be on our backs. And then you look at the, kind of the environment side, competitive environment. The fintechs are eating our lunch when it comes to high margin businesses that banks have. They literally are picking at the legacy banks' high margin businesses. Economic environment, it's a turbulent environment. So you look at, whether there's housing prices going to go down again, or whether economy is getting into a downturn again. So, you have to work through these kind of what I call turbulent and changing environments. So that is the picture that has changed. What hasn't changed in my mind, again, I can talk about this whether I was at Citi, ANZ, Barclays, NAB, any large bank, we still have pardon my, language, a shitload of what I call legacy monolith applications. And again, there's a reason for that. These are, again, we have to be reliable. We have to be, literally posting to customers' accounts by the penny. The regulation is not allowing us to do certain things, but every large bank in this globe has massive, massive mainframe applications still that are just, they're like basically dinosaurs that are, not letting us move forward in a way that we would like to.
Yeah. So if you bring that now onto NAB, what is so compelling? What is burning platform? What's the context there that pulled you out of retirement?
So, it's really a personal philosophy of mine, and it really boils down to the purpose. And when I, and again, my purpose, if you may, and again, these are very philosophical questions, but my purpose in life has always been, why was I born? What am I going to leave behind as a legacy? So it was really about making a difference. And again, this food truck thing that, Sai talked about was really also about not just, making money, but it was about, okay, you know what, I'm going to try something, I'm going to feed some people, and if the food is left over, I'm just going to go to the hungry shelter and, give them the food and be done with it. So I think, and if you look at the purpose of NAB, it was about, it's about backing the bold who move Australia forward. So that is kind of our guiding star. And now, the board, and if you may, the CEO and the senior leadership team have also been working on the vision, and we've come out with a brilliant vision now, and it is. And visions, again, they will change every 3 to 5 years, but they have to be attainable. So it is about how you become Australia's leading bank that is trusted by customers for exceptional service. So if you align those two together, that it really just resonated with me in terms of, where, my philosophy is about how do I make a difference in people's lives. And then Patrick, who's a dear friend of mine, I've known him for, about 6 or 7 years now. He and I are probably cut out of the same cloth when it comes to moral obligations, when it comes to, how we look at things, when it comes to agitating people and, changing the status quo. So I think those are the couple of things. And then the last thing, I guess, I always, blame my wife about it. She kind of said to me, go to Australia, I've never been there, so I can get to travel. So it's like, okay, honey, you know what? You can live through me. So, here I am on the other side of the world.
What's happening in NAB? What's the change now?
So the change is, so I was actually brought in to, I guess they've tried this thing, and again, Ryan is in the room, and I think ANZ is on the same piece. I mean, if you know about Australia, there's the 4 major banks. They're called the 4 pillars. They probably control, I don't know, 80, 90% of the market. And they're all going through, whether it's CBA, Westpac, ANZ, or NAB, they're all going through their own transformation. NAB has failed once at it. I mean, they tried to do something in the home lending space. Again, most of these banks are either home lending, business lending, flavors of consumer banking, if you may. One bank is stronger than the other. And NAB actually failed once on the home lending side, which was surprising. Home lending is, mortgage is not a rocket science product. And so they ended up spending, I think, close to a couple of $2 billion. Ended up with a partner called Oracle. And basically, we're going to transform the home lending business. And here we are, like literally, it's a disaster. And they aborted that thing about long before I got there. 2 years ago, I think, is when they aborted that thing. They have a large business and private bank, which really creates. Again, think about it. How do you allow the bank to give capital to customers for economic growth? I mean, that's what we do for a living. I mean, how brilliant is that? But you know what? It's painful when customers come to our branches or want to talk to us about getting capital from us for their economic growth. We literally drag them through all our dirty laundry. And so I was brought in to basically, Patrick called me and said, hey, listen, you've done this stuff at Citi, which, was 21 countries. You've done it at Barclays, which was really one product. Can you come help me? Which is really a complexity of products. So it's not, like it's one country, but it is more complex because of the complexity of products. And it is complex because it has branches all over the country, whether it's urban areas or rural areas. And it is also, NAB is also big in agriculture lending. So that also adds its own complexity. So I was brought in to basically look at the whole business and private bank lending side and the home lending side, which is about 80% of the company's, activity and profits. And so that's what, drove me to kind of say, okay, hopefully I can come and help them and see where I go. I've been at it about 5 months now. So, making progress, slow according to my wishes, fast according to Australia's culture. So we'll see where we go.
So 5 months, you said. What's your roadmap? How do you slice and dice?
Yeah.
How do you, start showing results by Christmas?
So, one is it all starts with the customer. I mean, I think you have to look at from an end-to-end standpoint. All transformations are driven by a need, and that need has to start with the customer. And so, again, I think I kind of talk about, I obsess about the customer. And if you do that, then you're basically the first thing you're doing is you're actually doing an end-to-end value stream. And people talk about customer journeys, but I kind of talk about end-to-end value stream. And that's where I start. So, if a customer wants a loan from us, what is it that we take them through from the moment they've showed up on our doorstep to ask for that capital to the money's in their bank account? And believe me, whether it's Citi, NAB, or Barclays, it is a pretty ugly value stream when you look at what we do today. And so I actually always take the difficult route, which is, okay, let's me do the value stream. Then we figure out with the right partner, how do you automate that value stream? How do you actually make sure that there's some principles like, it's digital by default design. When people talk about digital, a lot of people think about, okay, I'm going to put buttons on a smart device or internet access. But you know what? I can give you horror stories about when you do that, you will blow up your back office. So digital by default design to me is how do you actually make sure that your automation is actually electronic data, flowing through that process. And if you do that, you're home, home free. Now, easier said, harder done. Then you get into, okay, if you can't do that, because you will get exceptions, how do you get workflow? And then you get into the robotics, like, okay, I've got workflow, but then I'm also, for some standard stuff, I'm going to put robotics in. And these, this is the process I go through. It's so value stream, automation, workflow, and robotics. I could take the easy way out, which is I can go, bottom to top, which could be easy, but I can tell you I won't transform. I would probably be doing, what I would call improvements at the edges.
Okay. So we talked a lot about failures yesterday, and transformations more often than not fail. What is your playbook? What is the playbook for success? Or how do you learn from failures?
So 2 or 3 things, Sai. One is failure to me, again, it's different in different contexts, if you may. So when you talk about venture companies, yeah, you know what Leonard was talking about yesterday, invest in 10, and if 2 of them succeed, great. And 20 million, if I wasted 20 million on the other 8, fine, I failed. In a company like ours, and again, NAB, I can't afford to fail spending $20 million. So I talk about fail fast, learn quickly. And again, this is what I tell my 20-year-old, and I tell the teams that work with me, is FAIL actually is an acronym. If you think about it, it's first attempt in learning. So, so FAIL is, you learn from it. Don't repeat it. Don't repeat the same mistake. So that's one. Second is transformations are pure exhaustion. I mean, I guess what I would say to you is, I've done them now 3 times in my life. This is the 3rd one. I haven't succeeded at this one yet. I don't intend to fail at it. And which leads to my 3rd element, which is you have to have grit and resolve. So, at the end of the day, I think you will run into obstacles, guarantee you. Success is not depending on that you're going to run into obstacles, but it's how you deal with them. And so, and that actually, leads you to success. If you actually think about obstacles as a containing fence, guess what happens? You will fail. You will fail at transforming because you would think about it as a fence, and you will try, and then you'll say, well, enough, I'm done. But if you think about them as hurdles, then you jump over one, and guess what happens? You get more strength to jump over the next one. And the last piece I would say to you is, and again, I think Jane talked about it earlier, you have to start putting proof points on the table, really for 2 or 3 things. And these are not, I call them glimmers of hope or twinkles of hope. And these are things actually to get 2 things going. So one is actually getting the folks that are with you to think, like, okay, what, we're going to move. But more importantly, I can guarantee you, and we talked about in Citi and in Barclays about the frozen middle. These are adversaries. They want you to fail because status quo means they continue to do what they do. And in NAB, I think I call it just the frozen tundra. So I think that, you have to get those adversaries on the journey as well. So you've got to bring people along on the journey. And unless you put those glimmers of hope really fast, you might as well forget about it. And I actually look at slow lanes and fast lanes. So the fast lanes are the quick wins that require no technology. The fast lanes, if you may, are some technology required to kind of get you out there. And I think about it as program increments. And the program increments are consumable value or consumable solutions that are delivered. And I think about these as 8 weeks. So every 8 weeks, we've started coding now, by the way, so I've been at 5 months. We know what the what is. Now we're trying to get to the how. So we are actually going to deliver our first consumable solution in NAB before Christmas. And I told the guy who's my stakeholder, I'm going to give him a Christmas gift. So we'll see where it goes. I mean, again, the grit and resolve I'll bring to the team. We will get that done. Come hell or high water. It may not be the finest consumable solution, but it will be a twinkle of hope.
So how do you scale yourself in an AB? What kind of team are you creating around?
Yeah. So my philosophy is, that the 2 or 3 things. So one is you have to let the team, free. So the first thing is you bring the right team, and I'll talk to you in a minute in terms of, what the right team is. But I firmly believe in that the authority sits closest to where the work is happening. So my job is actually not to run the team. My job is actually to unblock what gets in their way so they can actually do their job. So I think about it, myself as a leader servant. So I actually, again, I think yesterday somebody brought up, if you look at today's world, the hierarchical structures of companies actually inverted. So if you put the customer on the top, Andrew Thorburn will be on the bottom, and I'm actually on the, not far from him. So I think, again, I look at it as I'm a leader servant, and I need to unblock stuff. That is when work happens. Now, I'm a demanding guy, very demanding guy. I'm challenging, very challenging. I will challenge the status quo. And these are, again, some of the qualities I bring to the table, and I look for those qualities in a team. Individual accountability. The buck stops with you, right? Make the call. You don't have to come to me, make the call. Initiative. Like, if you inherited something, make sure you're leaving something behind that is better than what you inherited. Create your own agenda. Be an agenda setter, not an order taker. Number 3, inspire, right? Be curious and, get the other people on the journey with you. Have them walk pathways that they don't even know existed. I mean, this is transformation now. This is not about, I talk about integrity, right? What do you believe in? Do you say what you believe in? And then you do what you say. So, Patrick and I talk about it, and you may have heard it. Our say-do ratio is 1 to 1. What we say, we will do. So I think so the team has to be, that way. And then the most important one really is, again, I talked about the legacy monoliths. I talked about, these things that actually hard connected, if you may. I can tell you, in NAV, for example, again, I may be sharing some secrets with Ryan. There is no server side on our website. I mean, on our client, if you look at our browser, there is no server side on that browser. I mean, how crazy is that? So again, like, Sai said, I'm not a technologist, but I can be dangerous when it comes to technology. So, where I'm going is you have to put the right tech partner. And, again, ThoughtWorks, I work with them in Barclays, in both the US and the UK when I transform both sides. And now, we bring them into NAB. They are, I believe they're the right partner to help us kind of challenge us, think about it differently, think about how do you actually create services-oriented, capabilities in a financial services environment. How do you make sure technology, I mean, again, Jane and Xiao talked about technology. To me, technology has to be invisible. If you make technology invisible to our users, they don't have to know what we do or how the sausage is made. And that to me is, again, I use these 6 adjectives for technology. It's got to be fast, it's got to be agile, it's got to be efficient, it's got to be relevant, it's got to be resilient, and it's got to be deep. NAB today is probably on a scale of 1 to 10, 0 on all 6 of them. So I think I need to have a partner like you, like ThoughtWorks, like the team here, and I think I committed to Sai. I'll come. You've been trying to get me here, what, like 4 years in a row now? And so I committed to him, I'll come this time because I need his help.
Thank you. We are running out of time. Any last, any last messages for the audience from your playbook?
Yeah, the only thing I would say to you is obsess about the customer, commit to excellence, commit to failure, commit to people. And I think, and then pick the right partner. And, there's no reason for you not to be successful.
Thank you.